Gemini, the law of return does justice and provides your payment with interest at the right time. Gemini, can you feel it? That invisible shift that whispers, "It's your time now." What if I told you that everything you've given, every overlooked effort, every word spoken in truth, every silence held in grace, is about to echo back with astonishing precision? This isn't just karma coming full circle. It's justice with interest. You were never meant to be the quiet observer forever. You were meant to be the revealer, the decoder of the cosmos. And right now, the universe is calculating every moment you stood still when you could have struck back, every time you analyzed instead of retaliated, every conversation where you chose clarity over chaos. I'm Elizabeth, your guide here at Esoteric Wisdom, and this message has found you because the energies surrounding Gemini are anything but random. What I'll share with you is a warning, yes, but also a divine invitation. One that only someone as perceptive, mentally agile, and spiritually attuned as you could recognize. So stay with me. Don't look away. The signs have already begun. And by the end of this video, you will understand why the law of return always arrives precisely when you've stopped waiting. Now, are you ready to see what justice really looks like when Mercury aligns with divine timing? Chapter 1. The Invisible Ledger of Gemini. Gemini, you've always known there's more to reality than what meets the eye. You read between lines others never notice. You catch glimmers of truth mid-sentence, half smile, and let the rest of the world catch up. But even for you, so attuned to nuance, so hungry for understanding, there comes a moment when even your mercurial mind falls silent and asks, when will life finally return what I've poured in? Let me answer you now. The universe never forgets. While you've danced between dualities, being both the teacher and the student, the skeptic and the believer, you've sown seeds across timelines that are just now sprouting. The ideas you shared that were dismissed, they took root in minds too proud to admit your wisdom. The loyalty you gave freely, without contract or guarantee. It has woven itself into cosmic law, now preparing your reward. But here's the twist only a Gemini could grasp. This return isn't linear. It's quantum. It moves through time in unpredictable ways. You may not receive from those you gave to. Instead, the universe reroutes energy through unexpected doors, an old colleague calling out of nowhere, an online message that shifts your trajectory, a forgotten project finding sudden relevance. These are not coincidences. They're karmic calculations resolved in the language you understand best, synchronicity. Mercury, your ruling planet, is forming powerful angles with Jupiter and Saturn this cycle. What does that mean for you? Jupiter expands the scale of your return. Expect amplification. Saturn enforces structure and fairness. No more delayed validations. This rare cosmic configuration operates like a celestial audit. Every ounce of sincerity, intelligence, and self-restraint you offered in times of chaos is now logged and filed. The payout? It's coming.
And it has interest.
You see, Gemini, your brilliance isn't just in speaking truths. It's in discerning them before anyone else dares to name them. While others reacted emotionally, you paused. You studied. You chose to be the observer when it was easier to be the accuser. And the universe noticed. That restraint, that maturity, those are the very metrics being used now to measure what's returning to you. But let's be honest. It wasn't always easy, was it? There were moments you questioned if compassion made you naive, if forgiving made you weak, if your flexible mind had turned into a compromise machine that left you empty in the name of harmony. You knew how to adapt, to code switch, to accommodate, but were you being seen? Were you being valued? The answer is yes. But only now is the proof arriving. It begins subtly. A phone call, a meeting that feels too timely to be accidental. Dreams that bring back unresolved characters from your past. These are the ripples, the warm-up act before the great balancing begins. You're not imagining them. And no, you're not being overly analytical. You are receiving cosmic data. And what of those who overlooked you? The ones who mistook your lightheartedness for lack of depth. They're being shown the depths you never needed to prove. Because the law of return has a sense of irony. It delivers clarity not just to you, but through you. So, Gemini, I ask you, can you hold still long enough to receive? You're used to movement, to multitasking, to chasing the next curiosity. But the kind of return that's on its way to you? It requires stillness, receptivity, a letting go of the need to make sense of it all. Because some blessings don't come with explanation. They come with peace. This is your moment to stop asking, when, and start whispering, thank you. You are not being repaid in kind. You are being honored beyond measure. Chapter 2. The Reckoning Behind the Silence. Gemini, have you noticed the growing quiet around you lately? A hush that isn't absence, but preparation. Some people have drifted. Conversations feel more shallow. Certain relationships that once buzzed with excitement now fall flat, hollow, unresponsive. You wonder, did I do something wrong? But this is not about wrong. This is about the rebalancing you've been sensing for months. Silence for you is rare. You thrive in movement, dialogue, questions. But now the universe has pressed pause. Not to punish you, but to prepare the stage for a return that doesn't require your voice. It only requires your awareness. You see, Gemini, karma doesn't always announce itself with thunder. Sometimes it arrives in the stillness, the unanswered text, the job you didn't get, and the one you did but didn't expect. These moments are recalibrations, adjustments from a universe that finally decided it's time to even the scales. And not just even them, but tip them in your favor. The law of return is doing its work, quietly, with mathematical precision. And while you may feel left out or even lonely in the process, what's actually happening is spiritual housekeeping. The people who no longer fit are being gently removed. The dynamics that kept you overgiving are dissolving. That mental fog? It's lifting. Because the time for playing small is over. And I need to say this, because I know how your brilliant mind works. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about getting back what you're owed.
No, Gemini.
This is about recognizing your worth and letting the universe catch up. Mercury, your ruling planet, is sitting in a rare angle with Saturn, the keeper of karma, and Neptune, the keeper of dreams and illusions. This alignment is powerful because it pulls the curtain back. You're being shown what was always there, but never spoken. Truths rise to the surface, like ink in water. The mask slips. The game is up. Those who doubted you? Watch as they stumble in your wake. Those who used your flexibility against you? They're beginning to realize they misjudged your depth. Because what looked like indecision was actually discernment. What seemed like detachment was wisdom in waiting. You were biding your time, assessing, learning. And now that time is up. A Gemini I once worked with, Elena, a community health worker in Georgia, spent years mentoring others without asking for recognition. She stayed after hours, offered her own lunch to patients who needed it, and covered for colleagues during burnout. When layoffs came, she was the first they considered releasing until the community, the very people she helped, petitioned on her behalf. Not only did she keep her job, she was promoted and invited to speak at a national conference. Her story echoes yours. You've been Elena, and now your return is in motion. But here's the crucial thing. You must allow it. You must stop playing the modest version of yourself just to keep others comfortable. You've earned this rise. You've paid in silence, in sacrifice, in suppressed emotion. Now it's your season to receive, not just emotionally, but tangibly. This chapter of your karmic story is not just about what comes back to you, but who you become when it does. And so, I ask you, Gemini, are you still waiting for permission? Or are you ready to claim what is already yours? Chapter 3. The Currency of Integrity. Gemini, in a world addicted to appearances, your integrity has been your quiet rebellion. You've chosen the truth, even when it cost you comfort. You've walked away from easy wins because they didn't align with your soul. And while others celebrated shortcuts and surface-level success, you played the long game. You honored your own timing. You held out for what felt real. Now that integrity is turning into currency. You see, the law of return doesn't just reward action. It responds to intention. It remembers how you didn't retaliate when you were misunderstood. It recalls the restraint you showed when your character was tested. And most importantly, it knows the energy behind your choices. What you didn't receive in applause, you are now receiving in alignment. This moment is cosmic compensation. And yes, it's okay to be surprised. Gemini isn't typically one to wait around for reward. You prefer to move, to create, to shift gears. But this time, the reward is catching you. And it's not because you were chasing it. It's because you outgrew the need for it. That's when the universe delivers. As Mercury, the ruler of your sign, harmonizes with Jupiter, the planet of abundance, doors you forgot you knocked on are opening. Not because you banged louder, but because you waited with dignity. That's the part the world misses, that your so-called inconsistency isn't carelessness, it's calibration. You've been editing your path, clarifying your truth, and removing what no longer fits. Now the reward will fit you. I recall a story of a Gemini named Malik, an educator from Illinois. He applied for a leadership grant 3 years in a row and was rejected each time. He didn't fight the system, he improved his program. When the grant board changed hands, they revisited past applications. Malik's name resurfaced, along with testimonials from students he never knew had written about him. He not only received the grant, but was also invited to sit on the advisory panel for future applicants. What seemed like delay was actually divine preparation. Just like Malik, you may have felt ignored or left behind. But what's coming now will not just reward your effort, it will amplify your platform. That's the interest the universe is talking about. You didn't just sow good energy, you sowed it in hard soil. You gave when others took. You stayed graceful in moments that could have made you bitter. And that has built something far more valuable than short-term validation. But here's the part you must remember, Gemini. When the return comes, don't water it down. Don't shrink. Don't apologize for finally being seen. This is not ego, it's equilibrium. You're not taking anything you haven't already earned in spiritual capital. Your intuition wrote the check. The universe is cashing it. And so I ask you, are you ready to stop downplaying your light? Are you ready to receive not just what you gave, but more than you ever expected? Chapter 4. The return is real, but are you ready to receive it? Gemini, the return is not a myth, not just a poetic idea we entertain in spiritual circles. It is happening now, right before your eyes. But here's the part no one tells you. Not everyone is emotionally or energetically ready to receive what they've earned.
Why?
Because receiving, truly receiving, requires worthiness. And for someone as self-reflective and mentally agile as you, worthiness has always been a moving target. How many times have you asked yourself, do I deserve this? How often have you dimmed your own glow to make others feel more comfortable? But now, the universe isn't offering comfort. It's offering confirmation. And your job isn't to question it. It's to recognize it. As Mercury, your ruling planet, begins to move through a more expansive alignment with Saturn, the Lord of Karmic lessons, you're being asked not just to observe your blessings, but to own them. To accept that what's arriving now isn't random. It's restitution. Not just for the moments you were overlooked, but for the pattern of giving without reciprocation that has followed you like a shadow. You have always been the sign of duality, of opposites seeking integration. But Gemini, this is the season where your fragmented giving returns whole. The laughter you offered while quietly carrying your own confusion. The wisdom you spoke even when you doubted yourself. The way you lit up rooms while questioning whether you belonged in them. That's what's being returned now. Multiplied.
Blessed.
Marked with your soul's signature. And here's the part that might shake you. The people who dismissed you, the spaces that ignored your value, they will see it now. Not because you screamed louder, but because your light has grown too bright to ignore. You may notice that someone from your past resurfaces. Not to start over, but to witness your evolution. It could be a former employer, a family member, or even an old friend who once doubted your path. Their return isn't an invitation. It's a reflection. A mirror showing you how far you've come. But here's the deeper truth. This isn't really about them. It's about you finally seeing yourself through the eyes of the divine. No distortion. No filters. Just truth. And with that truth comes a sacred responsibility. Not to prove anything. Not to justify the blessings. But to use them. Because when the law of return delivers, It doesn't come empty-handed. It brings gifts and assignments. You're not just receiving abundance, Gemini. You're being asked to become the source of it for others. So ask yourself, how will you use what's being returned to you? Will you create, teach,
Heal. Speak.
whatever it is, it will come naturally. You don't have to force this flow. You are the flow. You're the wind that carries wisdom, the bridge between intellect and intuition, the messenger that many didn't know they needed until now. And yes, this return may come softly, through a compliment you didn't expect, a job offer that aligns perfectly, a moment of peace where there used to be confusion. These are all currencies of the return. Pay attention, and don't ask why it's happening now. Ask instead, what will I do with what's finally mine? Conclusion: the scales have tipped, and Gemini, it's your time to receive. Gemini, everything that once felt one-sided is shifting. The law of return isn't just theory anymore, it's reality. And this reality is tailored to you. You who gave without keeping score. You who spoke truth even when it cost you comfort. You who kept moving forward while wondering if the universe remembered your name. It did. And now it's calling it back with interest. This moment marks the end of wondering and the beginning of witnessing. You're no longer in the waiting room. You're being ushered into the room where rewards are distributed, not because you demanded them, but because your integrity earned them. What was denied is returning. What was lost is being rebuilt. And what was unseen will be spotlighted by divine timing. This isn't a reward for performance. It's a restoration of balance. So take a deep breath. Feel into this moment. This isn't just about receiving material things. It's about remembering who you are. A messenger of light. A weaver of connection. A Gemini whose very essence brings clarity where there once was noise. Now is your time to live in alignment with the truth that has always guided you. And if you're still unsure, let this be your confirmation. Yes, you are always worthy. Yes, the return is real. Yes, the universe kept its promise. If this video has stirred something in your soul, let it speak. Comment below with the signs you've already started to see. Like this video if you're ready to step into the justice you've earned. Subscribe to Esoteric Wisdom for more soul-guided messages crafted just for you. And most of all, believe in the timing of your own transformation. Because remember, the scales have tipped. And this time, Gemini, they're tipping in your favor. The universe does not forget. It balances when the heart is finally open enough to receive.